About 19,000 lower-wage retail workers will get higher salaries from next month. They're among more than 46,000 workers in the sector who are included in the progressive wage model. It's the largest group to benefit so far. Michelle Teo with this report.
Long hours spent on their feet with limited career progression and poor pay. Those are just some of the issues plaguing the retail industry, but all that is set to change next month. Retail assistants and cashiers, for instance, will be paid at least $1,850 excluding overtime pay. It will be raised by another $125 next year and $200 in 2024. In total, the pay increases will be more than 17% over 3 years. The government will co-fund up to 75% of wage increases through the Progressive Wage Credit Scheme. Home furnishing retailer Ayuga welcomes such support, especially when it's facing rising costs and a manpower shortage.
Because it's difficult to actually hire Singaporeans sometimes. So I think with this progressive wage model, we can actually help to increase this number of workers in our retail stores. Currently, we are very lean, but we can hope to attract more highly skilled retail workers and also to train them during our programs.
Now, all this is taking place amid a changing retail landscape. Take the shop, for example, where retail assistants sometimes have to double up as cashiers and vice versa. Now, having a progressive wage model at this juncture ensures that these job roles, with their increased job functions, are correspondingly met with an increase in salaries so that workers are not shortchanged even as businesses transform for the long term. The association representing employers says firms are unlikely to pass on these rising costs to consumers in the short term. It adds that companies will have to improve their value proposition to make any price increase more palatable.
Obviously, it is not easy to think about there being no price increase. But what I believe can happen is that a company is able to leverage on technology and improve productivity. Then the amount of cost that they need to pass on to their consumer will certainly be much lower, and that will allow the retailer to be a lot more competitive.
Employers have 6 months to adjust to the new conditions. Failure to do so could mean a suspension of work pass applications and renewals. The wage schedule will next be reviewed in 2024.
We are looking out for productivity possibilities first with our employer partners, riding on the technology improvements, then bringing in better businesses with our employers. Then we can look after our workers in the most sustainable way. NTUC firmly believes in the larger ecosystem of tripartism, where we can angle for better businesses and in the longer term, in a sustainable way, take care of all our workers.
To do that, the wage model also calls for all retail roles to have minimum training requirements and a clear career progression. Next year, the wage model will expand to other sectors like food services and waste management.
The Manpower Ministry has accepted the recommendations by the tripartite cluster. It stresses that the focus is on the Singapore core. The wage guidelines for the retail sector will apply to firms that employ foreign workers. Now, for those that don't hire them, well, wages will be pushed up by market forces.
You have to cover all workers, including your foreign workers, in which I think it will certainly increase costs across the board for businesses if you have to pay your foreign workers the same levels as your local workers too. So hence, there is a differentiated effort in terms of how you enforce or regulate through your work pass administration.
Well, some retailers say that they're already paying competitive salaries that go above and beyond the incoming baseline wage requirements. But business owners say that they're still finding it difficult to attract staff, despite bumping up those salaries. Heidi Ng tells us more.
This curtain shop drapes almost 300 homes and offices every month, but the curtain atelier is struggling to find retail workers to keep pace. The family business currently has 4 full-time retail assistants and need to hire 2 more.
They complain about the long working hours and the tedious part, because carry quite heavy stuff, and need to work from morning to 8, 10 to 8.
It's paying its staff about $2,600 monthly, $750 more than the minimum of $1,850 required by next month. To attract new hires and retain existing staff, it gave a raise of $200 earlier this year and is looking at more.
If that doesn't help, we are thinking of maybe increase it slightly more and also mix with some flexible working hours or shorter working hours.
He's not alone. Over at this beauty chain, pay for the some 200 retail staff at its 28 outlets is competitive, from $2,000 to $3,000 for full-timers. But despite yearly increments, its director has had little luck filling vacancies.
It is sort of in hindrance. Actually, we did not expand the last 2 years because we couldn't find any workers, or we couldn't find enough workers to fill the position. And we are now short of 20-30 workers just to fill the existing shops that we have.
Even then, he welcomes the structure laid out by the new wage model.
It also helps to kind of like even out the playing field for all retailers, meaning that there's at least a starting cap for entry-level salary, so it's easier for us.
To make up for additional business costs, he says his business will simply have to increase its sales. In order to stay in the game, the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises says retail employers will have to give other perks, such as training or redesign jobs.
You can do a job rotation where you can perhaps service a offline or in this case online customers, and having that ability to do maybe 2 days a week where you are front facing and you have to be manning the shop, and then 3 days or the other half, right, where you are actually manning the online orders and handling customer queries, where you have more flexibility.
This will also help retailers avoid competing on salaries alone, something that would drive up overall business costs.
And for more on how this wage model will be applied in the sector, we're joined by Ernie Koh. He's president of the Singapore Retailers Association. Now, Mr. Koh, we just heard the story about small to medium-sized businesses having problems keeping more staff, even keeping the staff that they do have. Now, with this kind of model, whether or not it's co-funded by the government, you're still going to have problems getting staff. So is this going to be making it even more difficult for them, or maybe easing the problem for them, at least in the medium term?
Well, staff in the retail industry is always a critical problem. With this progressive wage model, having a runway of 3 years with a CAGR growth of slightly more than 8%, it at least give a window to tell people that, hey, there is actually a level playing field of minimum increment that we all have to abide to. And on top of that, I think a lot of our retailers has already been paying the minimum of $1,850 per month and are still not able to get the manpower needed. Having said that, I think many of our retailers are also pivoting. Pay is not the only thing that determine the number of people that you are able to get. Other things, the working environment, the career progression of the within your company, and also certain digitalization and automation may help you to attract more of the workers that you need.
All right, are these suggestions that you made, for example, technology, automation, of course, as we heard in the packages prior to speaking to you, leveraging technology, improving productivity, giving a better value proposition. All these things need money. It helps if you've got scale, economies of scale as well. How will smaller businesses such as mom and pop shops be able to implement this model in retail? Do you foresee problems for them?
Actually, for this progressive wage model, it is also only applicable to the companies that need to hire foreign workers to meet their dependency ratio. But having said that, mom and pop will get affected by this in the short run, because everybody will have to benchmark the salary according to the progressive wage model. There will be some cannibalization of workers from the mom and pop. Having said that, I think the progressive wage model credit scheme that the government has implemented will help everybody to tie over. I think it's over this 3 to 5 years period. But between these 3 to 5 years, we all need to find ways to automate and to use technology to drive productivity, and hence are able to rely less on the labor part of things, or make the working environment better, and even so that there is retail as a career rather than retail as a job.
Do you think that's a realistic proposition?
That is a way that we have to try. I mean, we can't be asking our government to continue to provide us with foreign laborers, or there's no way that our population is able to cope with increasing demand for the retail, especially at the entry level, because of the affluent, the industrializing of the nation, as well as the educated Singaporeans. So I think many of us will find that there's not much of option, but we can give it a try at least.
All right, a final question here, Mr. Koh. Technology, we keep bringing that up. Other suggestions which we have heard in the last 5 to 10 minutes, providing minimum training, providing clear career progression, redesigning jobs. All these seem very vague to me. Do you, in your association, do you see these things actually panning out to make a substantial difference to our developing the kind of a work model that we want to see?
Actually, at the association level, we are trying very hard to help our members, particularly to teach them the latest retail innovation, retail technology. We do also have classes for the bosses and classes for the employee, so that they are able to garner this digital and innovation to create more of a progressive retail environment. On top of that, we are working with Enterprise Singapore to bring digitalization and internationalization to the retail industry, so that they are able to also go beyond the shores of Singapore to be a bit more competitive on the area, so that they do not only rely on the shores within Singapore, but also going throughout to the region and internationally.
Thank you, Mr. Koh. I've been speaking with Ernie Koh. He's president of the Singapore Retailers Association.